Detroit Homecoming has been made possible in part by Urban Science, guiding business through science. Make decisions by what you know, not what you think. And by the William Davidson Foundation, advancing the cultural, economic, and civic vitality of Southeast Michigan, the State of Israel, and the Jewish community.
All right, next up. Thank you, guys. I think what we're going to do, because I don't want to block the slides with people sitting up here, so we have a series of speakers who are going to make a presentation with slides. I'm going to introduce each one. They all know what their order is, so I'm going to ask Moddie Turay to please come to the stage now. He's the founder and principal partner of a company called City Growth Partners. But before that, he was a part of the Detroit Economic Growth Corp, and one of the interesting stories I think for him is he left the DEGC to develop and do the things that he was helping other people to do before. So Moddie, the stage is yours.
Thank you.
Yes, right there.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. So I moved to Detroit in October 2015. And I remember coming into town for my interview, and I always tell this story because it's so true. Does the microphone work? Can you hear me? Okay. And I remember standing in Capitol Park for the interview and calling my wife and saying, there's something happening in this city. Great, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? And I remember saying, there's something happening in this city and we have to move. And if you can imagine, my wife was making more than me, so it's kind of like the tail wagging the dog, and we had 2 kids in school, and I just thought that Detroit really reminded me of DC, where we moved from. And in 2000 in DC, no one was living downtown, no one wanted to build retail, no one wanted to bring housing there because there was no retail. And then it was like this chicken and egg thing going on, and finally, Gallery Place came in because the city did its first TIF, and all of a sudden, life changed. And so when I started at DEGC, I inherited 1 employee. And by the time I left, I had 13. And what happened and what changed from that time was when I got there, most of the deals that were happening downtown. And then all of a sudden, Southwest Detroit, 6th and Livernois, West Village, everything just started to blow up. And then we just started hiring staff to take that on. So one of the reasons why I wanted to leave, and I knew it was time to leave, I was at a panel in Birmingham, and I remember someone asked me, should I invest in Detroit? And I was thinking, you guys are 30 minutes away from Detroit. Like, if you haven't invested in Detroit yet, maybe it's not for you. And I was like, people are sending people, development companies from across the country are sending people to Detroit just to spec time. They don't even have projects. They're like, my boss just told me to come here and see what the hell you guys are doing. So for me, I just thought that, and I said, well, okay, maybe it's time for me to leave and go start my own development company. And so in December of 2017, we started City Growth Partners, myself and the 1 employee that I inherited, David Howell, and we set out to do what we call catalytic projects that are architecturally, socially, and economically significant. So that's just a little bit about our company. But the first projects that we're doing are in Brush Park, and we're doing about $56 million in investment in projects there. We're doing 168 units, and we're doing about 15,000 square feet of retail, and we're doing 8 luxury townhomes. So we've got 2 architects that we brought in. One who's doing what we call Brush House is Morris Ajami out of New York, and he designed the Wyatt Hotel in Williamsburg, and I think he's got 1 building on the High Line and a number of other buildings across the country, quite frankly. And we're bringing in an architect out of DC called Depth Design, who's doing our 8 townhomes, which, quite frankly, I think will be the best townhomes in the city. But what's interesting about them, these are their first projects in Detroit. And when I called to talk to them about Detroit, I couldn't even get the word duh out of my mouth, and they were all like, we want to be there, we want to be there. We were looking for an excuse to get to the city, even to the point where when I started talking about architects of record, they were like, oh, no, we actually want to open our own like firms there. We want to like, hunker down in Detroit. I really feel like, I always say it, I feel like Detroit is probably, to me, it's the #1 city in terms of, especially from a real estate development standpoint, where you can do well by doing good. I don't know where you can say that about any other city. It's kind of cheesy, but when I think about like an investment in Pittsburgh, which is great, an investment in like New Orleans, it's great, but those are like investments in those cities. I almost feel like an investment in Detroit is almost like an investment in like America or something. It's like really like the home of creativity and industry in my mind. So the projects that we're looking at, we've got a number of announcements that will be coming out. They're really like these large-scale projects that have that are done by I think, of some of the best architects from around the world, quite frankly. And we are really excited about what's happening in Detroit and think that this is, to me, the best market that you can be in. And I'm not just saying it. I moved my wife and 2 kids here, so I really actually mean that. Thank you.
Next up is Mark Bennett. Mark is the managing director of MJBennett, and he's financing he's financed a lot of projects in Detroit, but I think we're going to talk today a little bit about the Lafayette West transformation. It's the old Wayne State University Pharmacy School in Lafayette Park. Mark?
Okay, thank you very much, Mary and the entire Cranes team. This is my 4th year running as a sponsor of Homecoming. It's been a tremendous experience. Several of my investor partners are in the audience today, and I look forward to developing some more. So my partner, Norm Pappas, and I run a real estate investment group based in Farmington Hills. We've got over 200 individuals, high net worth individuals, and family offices. It's part of a broader wealth management firm that Norm has been running for about 40 years. We are a broker-dealer, so all of our deals are fully compliant. We focus on equity investments of between $5 and $25 billion per transaction, several of which I'll go through before we walk into Lafayette West. The story in Detroit actually started in 2014 when Walter Cohn, developer of Ducharme Place, called me in the depths of the recession and the bankruptcy and said, would I like to raise $8 million for Ducharme Place? And I thought, well, that's a pretty challenging opportunity considering it was the bankruptcy time and no multifamily had been built for decades. I took it on. We got it done. We stabilized last year. We got our second distribution check a few weeks ago. The moral of the story is there are several properties in that 14 and 15 class, the Scott, Griswold, Orange Landing to some extent, that have now stabilized and are sending money back to investors. So you have a reinforcement of the investor perspective. At this point, my primary focus is deal flow. We're certainly looking for more investors, but my primary reason in getting involved and staying involved in Homecoming is finding opportunities and bringing our investors in. So Lafayette West started because of the background in Lafayette Park with Ducharme. The most important thing about this picture you'll notice is what's not there, and that's the vertical component of the jail, which has since been demolished. We put this site under control with our partner Janasco Development Company, which is a significant multifamily developer that has done a lot of work in the city. About a year ago, went under contract. It was announced the jail was moving and the freeway was coming up. 2 significant enhancements to value. The beauty of the location is you have the city when you want it. You have the architectural history of Lafayette Park, and you are 10 minutes from Campus Martius. You're now 5 minutes on a scooter from Campus Martius, which I think is actually quite significant. And you have clear vistas down towards the river. The site itself is 5.2 acres. The budget's over $100 million. It's virtually fully entitled. We expect to start demolition in the next 60 days or so. 314 for rent units, 60 for sale. The for sale is important as a funding source, and I'll talk about in just a minute. If you look at the site itself a bit more, green, walkable, all major important parts of the value that the city is looking for. We worked very closely with Maurice and his team in reconnecting this site to the grid and further Lafayette Park to the city itself, which is similar to what we're doing in Corktown. We're partnered with Eric Larson on the corner, again, bringing neighborhoods closer in. So the mix here is interesting. It's much more, if you look at what happened at Ducharme, we were about almost 60% two bedrooms. Here we're about 20. The one bedrooms are about 20% smaller. The parking ratios have come down in the last 3 to 4 years. You know, the city is pushing them quite a bit lower. We're not sure everybody's selling their cars yet. The amenity mix, increasingly important. That's a rooftop deck you're seeing in the middle. There's no exposed deck parking. All of it's enclosed or underneath the townhomes. The top right is a visual of what we expect 375 to come to construction in 2022, likely done in 2024. But again, then you've got a nice parkway as opposed to an 8-lane freeway. So we're very excited about the plan. Site plan has been approved for the site, as has the brownfield plan, and we've just finished the CBO process. So we've done a lot, and Amin has given us tremendous leadership over the last 12 months. A little more detail on the structure. It's all about density. Who cares what price per acre is? It's all about how many units you can build on the acre. So people had sticker shock on price. This is the best zoning and most dense zoning. So you got to look at price per unit, not price per acre. We finished our raise. Our equity raise we're oversubscribed. It was an opportunity zone funded deal. First one closed in the area, I've been told. We're just starting our second one this week. It's a property-specific fund, not a multi-property fund. We think that's the way to go based on our experience. I'd be happy to talk to you about that. I mean, there's a very strong debt strategy in place, which we're just now pulling together. And we are not taking CRP money because of the time-to-market delay. We're using sale of the condos, the proceeds from the condo, which is short-term takeout, to provide more equity and appropriate funding for the apartment. So we don't need that money from the state. I talked about the CBO process, sort of daunting going in over 6 weeks. We had 5 meetings at 2.5 to 3 hours, got it done, got tremendous input, and I mean negotiated all the key points, and that's just pulling together. Of course, we have a brownfield and TIF. Nothing happens without a TIF. We just got approval on the $24 million TIF, and I said leverage of the condo sales. And I can't overestimate enough the importance of looking at the city as a partner, not as an obstacle. The bottom line is you're not going to get it done unless they like what you're doing, but they do have resources. This is a Morris Ajami designed facade out of New York. Morris's first deal that actually got funded here in the city. Beautiful work, of course, that he's brought to us. The condominiums, this is really high-end architecture, of course. We comply with the affordable housing requirements that were talked about a little earlier. So this is our latest deal. It is closed from a funding perspective. We just announced a new raise this week on another deal in the city, and we've got 2 more in due diligence. My job is deal flow, due diligence, and asset management. So when the deals are closed, if you look at this flyer, these are all the deals that I personally am responsible for managing on behalf of our investors. So we stay involved with our deals from completion of the construction, going forward, refinance, whatever it takes. And of course, in the beginning, in terms of getting all the entitlement work done. So thanks again to Cranes for the opportunity to participate today. I'll be around tomorrow morning. I'll be around for the next 3 days. So let's talk and see if we can do some work together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Next up is Myles Hamby. He's the development manager at the platform, and I think he's going to be talking about a couple, at least 2 or 3 of the projects that the platform is doing, including Cass and York. We were in the beautiful showroom a little earlier today. Myles?
Hello, everybody. I actually will not be talking about Cass and York. Sorry to disappoint, but I'm sure you guys will learn more about that project from someone else in the future. How do I move on this side? There we go. So I'm going to be talking about 2 of our projects on the east side of the city, one in Eastern Market and one in the Islandview neighborhood near Belle Isle. The first one I'll talk about here is at Grashed. So in the same vicinity as the project that was just discussed before me, 1920 Grashed is right near Lafayette Park, Eastern Market, downtown area, about 1 mile outside of downtown. Is a 4.34 acre site. This is a really good opportunity for us to bring an urban scale big box to the site. Right now we are working with Sitio Architects from Philadelphia to work on our site plan right now. We're looking at 180 to 200 units, 20,000 square foot of retail in phase 1, and then if you look into the corner of the site, we're looking at that as our phase 2 opportunity for urban scale big box. Something that I want to point out here as well is it's right next to the DeQuinder Cut, which is such a gift. It's one of the first projects in this stretch near Eastern Market along the Cut that's going to be able to bring retail and residential activity right down to where pedestrians and cyclists use the DeQuinder Cut. And we're working with the city, and the planning department and our architects to redesign the way that someone experiences the DeQuinder Cut at this entrance and exit. And we'll drive by this one on our tour later this afternoon. So the second project that I want to discuss is our development over in Island View, right at the mouth of the entrance to Belle Isle. This in talking about mixed income, this is where the platform's really trying to drive some of those units down into the deeper affordability level. So not just doing 20% of the units at 80% AMI, but looking at how can we achieve 50% of the units at affordability levels varying between the 30 and 80% AMI level. And so here, one of the ways that we think we will be able to do this is by partnering with our nonprofit partner is Jefferson East Incorporated. They're a very reputable CDC in the Jefferson Chalmers, East Jefferson area. And so they're our JV partner on this deal, and they allow us to access funding that we maybe wouldn't be able to access by ourselves. And we think that that's going to be one of the keys to allowing us to achieve those deeper affordability levels in this project. And this is going to be a mix of rehab and new construction. So you can see in the site plan here, the buildings in the white we're rehabbing. There's an old mansion built in 1898 by a famous architect who also designed the Broderick Towers and other developments in the city. We're going to be rehabbing that, rehabbing this old cinder block building next to it, rehabbing a duplex, and then doing infill similar to the Co with new construction, duplexes, townhomes, and on the corner putting a mixed use building on the corner with 15,000 square foot of retail with a few apartments above. And something that I think is also makes this project really unique is we are going to have a strong stormwater management component to this, and so we are working with the foundation community and Detroit Water and Sewer Department to leverage funds to be able to do stormwater management on this site in a way that I don't think has really been tried in this city, and especially in a mixed income development. And so those are just some of the key elements to this project. Both of these projects we're looking to begin construction in the middle of next year. So.
Thank you. Next up, we have Bob Riney, President of Healthcare Operations and COO of the Henry Ford Health System, one of the most important anchors for here in the New Center area. Bob?
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be with you. I want to start off by just recognizing our sponsor partner, Redico and Dale Wachowski. They are working with us on a very large ambulatory project, and they're just terrific partners. But I really want to talk about a massive undertaking that Henry Ford Health System has taken on involving 300 acres across the street. Hello? Can you all hear me? Okay. Anyway, I was thanking Dale Wachowski from Redico for co-sponsoring, but really want to talk to you about a very ambitious project that Henry Ford Health System is taking on to transform 300 acres across from our flagship hospital. And for those of you that are not familiar, Henry Ford Health System is 103 years old, providing health care in 120 different care sites in Southeast Michigan with 30,000 employees. And our flagship is located in the New Center area of Midtown, and we are leading the redesign of this 300 acres in the light green area that you can see on your map. It's a multi-year journey, and our Board of Trustees is 100% committed to making sure that we see it through to completion. And just to give you a little background, The system's recommitment to our birth city is found not only in the choice to keep our facilities located in the city and serve the needs of our local population, but we're determined to use our campus as a spearhead for the next 100 years for destination care. So when we created the original hospital in 1915, Henry Ford himself stated that it was land sufficient for the foreseeable future. Well, it might have been sufficient for the first 100 years, but it was no longer sufficient for the next 100. So we determined that we would create a transformative project that would involve mixed-use residential living, a natural space and art corridor, industrial cluster, commercial mixed use, and residential. And the middle picture that you can see here is our 187,000 square foot cancer institute that's under construction right now that will anchor the south of the Boulevard project. This is going to be a state-of-the-art mind, spirit, body healing environment for all advanced cancer treatment, and will be a destination facility that will bring great competition and energy around this area for its additional land use. On the neighborhood development side, we're looking at something that really has sustainability. So focusing on, adopting this neighborhood and looking at its needs and its means on a case-by-case basis, not coming in with a one-size-fits-all strategy. Integration, placemaking, and authenticity are really the guiding principles that we're looking at development. And authenticity is really to recognize and respect what already exists, how to protect and preserve those assets, and then add to those assets with adjacent new development, new residential as we move forward. Our Board of Trustees made a major commitment of a multi-million-dollar commitment to allow us to begin procurement of land in this 300 acres several years back. And it's a combination of controlling land that was necessary for our mission-related activities, a land bank of other properties that we can sell or partner with others that will be neighborhood serving developments, and then eliminate blight and prevent land speculation. We really considered this to be a very, very successful program. We currently have control over 80% of what we believe is necessary in this 300 acres to achieve our full transformational goal. We did have a little unintended consequence in that some of the homes that we wanted and the neighbors that we wanted to stay, once they found out it was Henry Ford Health System, as you can imagine, they started to look for selling their homes, and we didn't want to erode what was the beginnings of a neighborhood that we wanted to build on. So we connected them to rehab and restoration funds so that they could not only stay, but they could enhance their properties to fit with the development as we're moving forward. We also related business opportunities, and you can see the picture on the left was a typical description of what was in the north end of that south of the Boulevard development. And you can see on the right what it looks like today. And this was a partnership with Carico and Kirko to transform land into something that was a meaningful logistics and distribution center, taking advantage of the I-94 corridor. It's been deemed a tremendous success, and we now have two other companies that are building adjacent to that particular site. I will tell you as a side note, I think this site restoration broke the record for the most found and removed tires, probably in the entire United States history, because it had been a dumping ground for a long time. There was a conversation about jobs. This new distribution center alone created 200 new jobs for Detroiters. The company that's going to build adjacent to it will be 150 new jobs, and the other company that will be adjacent is going to be 90 jobs. So we're creating a critical mass of employment while undertaking an overall development strategy. And then on the housing side, which is going to abut the mission-related activity for Henry Ford Health System, it runs the gamut from affordable and supportive housing for patients to upscale loft apartments for area professionals and families. And as the destination care increases, we're already getting a lot of inquiries from hotels that are interested in putting a hotel facility in that property. Our approach is to create relationships with development investment parties to take on very prescriptive projects and for us to deliver that property to them on a cost basis that works for the project and exits the deal over a long term. We're looking for long-term and sustainable solutions. We're very excited about this journey. Our flagship hospital across the street has every single day between 10 and 11,000 visitors. So it is an incredible anchor to build and have amenities, to have housing nearby. We see our employees, our retirees, and some of our patients all living in this neighborhood, and we're very excited about it. And I'll just end with a little story since we were talking about belief. And I don't know how many of you have ever been schooled by your adult children, but it's fun when you get schooled by your adult children. And my son is in commercial business development in New York City and doing very well. And he and his investment partners, who are all New Yorkers, have been increasingly investing in Detroit. They see something happening here that they want to be a part of. And I made the mistake one day when he was in town, and I was driving in the car with him, and I pointed to a building, and I said, oh, I'm so bummed. I said, 10 years ago, I should have bought that building. I could have got it for X dollars, and now, it's worth a Y. And he looked at me, and he said, that's what's wrong with you Detroiters. And I said, oh, do tell, son. And he said, because you're looking at what it was and thinking the door's closed, and those of us in New York and other places are looking at the price point now and saying it's just beginning. And I thought that was just a terrific insight. So thank you for your time.
You'll be going by some of what Bob was talking about on the tour this afternoon.